Before we jump into this episode, I want to remind you that while Caitlin and Sophia are dietitians, we're not your dietitians. This means the information shared in the Food Freedom Fertility podcast is intended to entertain, educate, and inform. It is not a substitute for medical care. This information is not intended to diagnose, manage, or treat disease. Always consult with your doctor before making any changes. Welcome to the season opener of Food Freedom Fertility. We are your hosts, Sophia Pavia and Caitlin Johnson, both registered dietitian nutritionists, both specializing in women's health and fertility. Me, Sophia, specializing in your luteal phase and optimal progesterone, and host B, Caitlin, specializing in PCOS fertility. Host A, host B. Host A and host B.
Lord. We're punchy today, people. We're happening.
So happy to be back. We missed you. And here we are again with a whole new season, locked and loaded, ready to roll out every week. And this is our season opener. So we're going to get right into it. This episode, we are going to get back to basics with Caitlin for PCOS fertility. We know there is a lot out there. And it can be so easy as you've been working some of the basics, or maybe like as you're even just first starting out, to be like looking for a quick fix, God knows. I wish there was one. And there are so many things that can help PCOS. And we did a whole episode on labs. We've done episodes on supplements like berberine and white peony and saw palmetto. But I'm going to tell you what, that saw palmetto isn't going to do diddly bupkis compared to the basics of diet and lifestyle when it comes to managing PCOS to get pregnant. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to just bring you back to the foundation, because it's very easy to start getting sort of sucked up into these whirlwind things that, probably have some good research behind them, but really are just bringing a knife to a gunfight when compared with the basics we're going to teach you today.
And if you really think about it, if you're listening to this episode and you're like, well, I don't have PCOS, and you're about to hop off, we're going to talk about a lot of the basics that impact PCOS and may impact it to a greater degree in some areas. But generally, almost everything we're going to talk about today will impact a man or a woman that's trying to get pregnant and grow their family. So it's worth considering these things, even if you don't currently have a PCOS diagnosis, or don't think you have it at all. We're going to talk about basics that matter to you too.
That's right. If you have PCOS, this episode is going to be dead on for you. But Caitlin is not, we're not going to talk about anything that's like, but if you don't have PCOS, don't you dare do this because it's going to wreck everything. No. And that's really, I think, Caitlin, a great point and a great lens to look at PCOS basics is some women, their fertility is like a dandelion, where it can just pop up in the cracks of the concrete. It can grow anywhere. Under any conditions, they seem to be getting pregnant with ease and no complications, and that's their situation. PCOS is more like a delicate orchid, where the right conditions cause a bloom, but oh, is that bloom so beautiful.
Right.
And that's really what this is going to be about today, is about how to treat yourself like a beautiful orchid and not like a dandelion that you can like spray with glyphosate and it just comes popping right back up. You are the beautiful orchid. And even if you have some parts of your life that are more dandelion-ish, okay, maybe you don't have PCOS and you got some things that are more dandelion-y, treating yourself like an orchid is only going to result in more beautiful, bigger blooms. So it doesn't mean because you don't have PCOS, these things don't apply to you or you won't benefit from them. Because this is what I believe, honestly. PCOS is sort of the canary in the coal mine. Ladies with PCOS, they're just manifesting symptoms that the rest of us are managing to suppress. But everything that you do to manage PCOS is essentially what is good for any person. bar on some, medical treatments. Like, I don't think everybody just needs to be popping metformin and letrozole just for the hell of it. But
Or getting an ovarian wedge surgery.
yeah, or an ovarian wedge surgery, or taking saw palmetto every day. Yeah. Anyway, you get what I mean. The basics we're going to talk about today, these apply to everyone who wants to bring home a healthy baby.
Yeah. And this episode idea came out of some recent events. This year, I took on 2 different groups and kind of brought them through a 3 to 4 month period where we met very often as a group. We also met individually, and they were all very surprised when our first meetings were about how to support sleep quality and how to build routines. And we really looked at everybody's evening routine and how could we improve that so that they were getting better quality sleep and lower their evening cortisol levels and increase their natural production of melatonin, which is a powerful antioxidant for egg quality and has research behind it being really helpful for women with PCOS inducing ovulation. So like, how can we impact those things that are very helpful for just day-to-day living and have downstream effects in your health? But when I ask you to make a change to your breakfast and you've eaten the same breakfast for 20 years, it's going to be really hard to do on mornings that you wake up just exhausted. It's going to be really hard to do if you didn't spend your weekend and prioritize meal planning, or at least getting the groceries.
Shops, you don't even have the ingredients in your house.
Exactly. So there's this element of managing PCOS or managing any health condition. When you need to make behavior change, you are going to have a really uphill battle if we don't first consider and support the things that will make those changes easier, like sleep. I mean, it's just like, it's huge. And I think we have like an epidemic right now of people that are so used to disengaging at the end of very long, stressful days, looking at their phones, binging on streaming TV. Like
I'm guilty of this completely.
Me too. And it was really impressive to see we had 8 women together and we all committed except for one who had a very different circumstance to get our phones out of our room when we went to bed. We committed to not looking at them in a scrolling type context for 2 hours before bed. Now that's different than did somebody text me that I need to get back to? But
even set my alarm, check my calendar.
Right.
Yeah.
But even checking emails 2 hours before bed, there was a hard stop. And I'm not imposing these on everyone who's listening, but I want to say, with an open mind, just get curious about your current health habits. And, do you feel in the morning like you need to run through a drive-through line for breakfast and coffee because you snoozed 20 times on your alarm clock because you didn't get a good night's sleep because you were up till 12:30 scrolling TikTok? Because if that's you, the issue isn't, I don't have time in the morning to eat a high protein breakfast or prepare a breakfast. The issue is I don't know how to manage my time before bed, or I don't have really healthy outlets for the stress levels I'm carrying. And so I'm disengaging and scrolling on my phone for 2 hours before bed. And 20 minutes becomes 2 hours very quickly. So before I would ever even bring up, let's make this diet change or let's make this supplement change, I would say, what areas in your life are there big gaping holes that you can see right now with sleep quality, weekend priorities, like getting groceries into your house or meal planning? What areas are there where you could say hey, I could spend a week on building some patterns before I even try to make any nutrition, exercise, some of these harder behavior changes. Maybe not. Maybe getting off TikTok before bed is harder, but that is more of one of those foundation settings.
It's so simple, but it's a self-control thing, and it's a dopamine thing, and it's sitting quietly with your own thoughts that you've been suppressing all day so that you can actually let your mind wind down. That can be so uncomfortable. I am someone that tends to be really addicted to stress. And when you start to break that addiction, it is really painful. It's the classic luteal phase defect lady right here, addicted to stress. high intensity workouts, high speed, everything all the time, fasted this, caffeine that. It just feels so good to run on stress hormones all the time. I mean, I would rather do 100 pull-ups than sit alone with my own mind on a yoga mat and move through a slow flow. To me, that's just torture. And same thing when it comes to like gratitude, mindfulness, even prayer sometimes. It's like I would rather walk barefoot on broken glass than have to just
Face these
be
things.
quiet and face my own mind, the spiral of hot anxiety that's just swirling inside my brain, and to actually sit down and face it versus just escape it and suppress it. And for those of you that have luteal phase issues, this was a big piece of my journey as well, and it's gonna have to be a piece of yours
Yeah.
if
And
you want to get well too.
it's also just like a really common thing interacting in this very technology driven culture that we're in. It's very different than, 99.9% of human history, the last even 10 years alone. And so we really need to be intentional, because if we are not intentional, we're just going to end up wasting time and energy. And it's amazing to me when I think about what you just said, reflecting on both of our health journeys. Like, I've done the really hard things. I've gone and done 90-minute Bikram yoga because I was like, maybe it's this. I've done running. I've done really hard things. And all of those took more time and more money than lighting a candle with a journal and some time in prayer and stretching my body before bed to like give my body a really nice, consistent bedtime routine that tells my body, just like we do with babies, you're going to want to do this when you have a child. Routine helps the body respond and turn off. And so if you can pick 2 or 3 things, I light a candle, I read a devotional, and then I do 3 minutes of deep breathing while I pray. I light a candle and I go stretch on my yoga mat, and then I brush my teeth, and my husband and I talk for 5 minutes about what we're grateful for. Like, whatever pattern you want to build in, it doesn't even need to be really long. It needs to be consistent, and it needs to not be behind a screen. And so, shocker, if this is the first thing we're talking about, you probably expected me to come out guns blazing with like protein rich breakfast,
no
and
caffeine, no artificial sweeteners,
no gluten,
soda,
no dairy, take, this inositol product. That's not it, sister, because you can do all those other things perfectly. And if we're not really laying the foundation, your body isn't going to feel safe enough to ovulate. It's not going to feel safe enough to help you kick your 3 p.m. sugary coffee drink addiction either. And so we need to kind of start at the more foundational things. We don't teach you calculus first. We start with like shapes sorting, right? So that's the first thing. You can tell we
have toddlers.
Yeah, that's the first thing I would tackle. And we have so many more juicy thoughts, but we'll get back to them after this commercial break.
We're taking a break to talk about our sponsor, Fertility Cloud. In working with hundreds of you ladies, we have noticed a problem that has come up. I know it's come up for me, Caitlin. It's come up for your clients as well. And that is not only finding a doctor who is going to know how to help you, but one that wants to. We have a lot of issues here, and sometimes getting a simple blood test or actually getting a medication or talking to someone who's actually an expert in fertility can not only take an insane amount of time, but it can feel like you're fighting your doctor.
Yeah, or you're playing like Russian roulette to get in front of somebody who actually cares. We are so excited to be partnering with Fertility Cloud because they have a solution for all of these frustrations. Just last week, I had a client that needed right now care, and we couldn't get her in front of an OB. And she got a same-day appointment with Fertility Cloud and spoke to a reproductive endocrinologist and had a prescription that she needed in her hand hours later. This is a solution that our industry desperately needs, and we are so excited to present to you.
So if you're in a remote area and you have to drive 4 hours to go see a doctor, or if you've been to multiple doctors and none of them seem to really listen or really care or want to take an approach that works for you, start up with My Fertility Cloud.
My Fertility Cloud has provided us a link, so check it out in the show notes. That will get you $25 off your first visit with one of their providers. So once you feel like you've done this, like I've done 3 days, I've done a week long of kind of setting up some really good routines around sleeping enough and maybe even just getting in the rhythm of grocery shopping on whatever days off you have, then it's time to kind of take the next steps. And I literally haven't met someone who's doing the nutrition thing perfectly. Okay. So even if you're like, hey, I've been working on this for a while, you may still have room to improve. And so I want to kind of step back and say almost everyone with PCOS struggles with some level of insulin resistance. Even if you're in a lean body with PCOS, and lean, especially in the research, is just defined as a normal BMI. So anybody with a BMI under 25 would be considered in this lean category of PCOS. When you consider the fact that so many of us struggle with insulin resistance, we have to look at the major things that impact insulin resistance, one of which we've already talked about, which is quality sleep. And the other two that are huge factors here are exercise and nutrition. Now, if you're somebody that listened to our last episode, got your insulin numbers, got your glucose numbers, and did your home IR score, and you're like, I don't have insulin resistance, I want to share a little bit of something I've gleaned after working with like 700 people with PCOS in my courses. Even those that don't have a propensity for insulin resistance still tend to make really like excessive amounts of testosterone. And so what I haven't seen in research yet, but I've kind of gleaned over my time working with so many women with PCOS, is that the ovary seems to be sensitive to the insulin that's there, maybe overly sensitive, and directing the production of hormones away from estrogen and towards testosterone. And so even though there might not be like a major amount of insulin resistance, there is an insulin sensitivity at the ovary level that really requires good effort when it comes to managing the things that impact insulin resistance. So whatever category you fall into, like I'm sure I have insulin resistance or I have PCOS, but that doesn't seem to kind of fit my picture, your ovaries may be feeling that in some way. And so when we look at the bigger picture, we're going to spend some time talking about nutrition today and the basics of that. But I kind of want to start with the thing that has a shorter soundbite, and that's exercise. You can see in research within 3 weeks of changing your exercise or increasing exercise, or even just starting exercise if you're not doing much at all in terms of physical movement, that the body starts becoming more insulin sensitive. And so when your body becomes more insulin sensitive, your body doesn't have to make as much insulin. When your body doesn't have to make as much insulin, your ovaries don't make as much testosterone. And that is really powerful. So wherever you're sitting, unless you're sitting on like the far end of, I work out every day, I do HIIT workouts, I have a hard time taking a day off. If I don't exercise, I don't know what to do. I'm not talking to that group right now. I'm talking to pretty much everyone else. There's likely room in your movement and exercise routine that could see improvement in terms of managing insulin resistance. And the first thing I would encourage somebody that's already exercising to consider is more weight training. Weight training is a quick way to get your muscles to consume insulin, become more sensitive, and trigger
consume blood sugar. They don't consume the insulin.
They like respond to the insulin. Yes. And then they utilize the blood sugar. And it sends a signal to your body that you don't have to make as much insulin because it's working. It's the key that's opening the door to the glucose. Okay. The other thing that is really impactful when we talk about weight training and PCOS is it tends to help the body get rid of testosterone more quickly, because the testosterone is telling and signaling the muscles that it's okay to build more lean muscle tissue. And with somebody who makes a lot of testosterone, this is a really efficient way to start signaling to your body to use it versus allow it to float around and impact your follicle health, impact your skin in terms of acne, impact your hair follicles in terms of hair falling out or hair growing in excessive patterns where you don't want it as a female. And so looking at strength training, if that's something you're not used to or haven't incorporated, this is something to kind of direct your focus to when we're talking about the basics. And it doesn't need to be extreme. It doesn't.
Yeah, you don't need to be like in the local barbell club, like putting 300 pounds over your head.
Truly. I mean, it can be as simple as buying a kettlebell and like 20-pound weights and 30-pound weights and doing things like rows at home where you're on the ground and you're pulling one arm up and using your back muscles. And like there are ways I would highly recommend, if you haven't done something like this, to work with somebody at least for a little bit that can help you kind of get acclimatized so that you don't injure yourself. But for somebody who has, you know, some sort of experience in their life lifting, incorporating movements, even with your own body weight, like squatting or doing wall sits, these can be really,
Lunges,
they can be really impactful for getting your body to respond to insulin.
I would like to add to
go
this.
for it.
Just like we talk about meals and snacks with food, there can be meals and snacks with exercise. Because a big barrier, I think, to exercising regularly, when we talk about like the time barrier, it's like, okay, so I've got to get to the gym. I've got to get changed. And then I do my workout, and now I'm really sweaty. So now I've got to shower. But I also need to have, you know, my makeup on and my hair done. So like at what point in the day am I going to be able to get sweaty and go through this whole rigmarole in order to get back to my regular life? And that can be really overwhelming. And especially for people that are in bigger bodies, getting sweaty can mean getting really smelly. And that can be embarrassing. And then you need to change everything and wash, and it could be kind of a lot. So I suggest snacking on exercises. So this is like, we're just going to do 3 sets of 10 of lunges, and it takes 5 minutes, and we just do a 5-minute workout a couple times a day. And you're not going to get drenched in sweat. You're not going to have this red face for the next 3 hours afterwards. You don't need to change your clothes in order to do that. You can just snack on some wall push-ups, some lunges, some squats, some kettlebell swings. Just do a couple sets, get that heart rate up, get those muscles burning, and move on. So doing a few 5 to 10 minute sets throughout the day is going to be just as impactful as going to the gym and spending an entire hour on exercise, because we just don't always have that available. And this is something that I've started doing as a mom. I never wanted to work out in my house. I'm not good at it because there's always so many other things to do. But I have to consider my longevity. I have to consider my energy levels, my stress levels, my sleep. And so skipping workouts entirely is not conducive to the way I want to feel or the life I want to live as a mother, business owner, wife. So I've had to get more creative. And for those of you that, because I know that this is kind of the way that like you can get a seriously beet red face for like 3 hours. And you're like, God, this is embarrassing. I don't want to look like this. You don't have to push yourself to that point. You can do little bits of strength training peppered throughout your day, and just, don't get so worried about when and if and how. Just start.
I think that's great. The other thing that I'd say is, a body in motion will stay in motion, a body at rest. Like, it takes a lot of gumption, inertia, momentum to get moving. And so if you're like me, you can push through that first, like really hard 1 or 2 weeks and feel better and be like, okay, I'm over the hump of like, I don't want to exercise. Now I remember how good I feel doing it. I'm doing it. And then you can go on a week vacation and come back and go, okay, I didn't get to move as much. And it takes a while to get back into that routine. I highly recommend that you do your utmost once you get over this initial inertia to protect this space so that it's not one of those like I do really good for a month and then this thing happens and I take a week off because I was sick or, whatever came up in life and you take 5 days off, 4 days off, and it's really hard to get going again. Do your best to, even if you can't do the thing that you love, go to the gym that you love, go to the class that you love, go for a walk. Go move your body in some way where you're being very intentional, getting your blood flowing, maybe even getting your body to sweat a little bit, even if it's just a walk around the block to kind of keep that momentum once you get that momentum. Because I see this as a huge pattern in clients in that it's like they get excited. They've made an investment. They have hope dangling in front of their face again. They're like, okay, great, I'm going to do this. And then they get moving. And 4 weeks into it, something comes up, gets them out of their routine, and then it's really hard to get back into it. So do your best to protect that. And once you're a body in motion, stay in motion, even if it's bite-sized, like Sophia's saying.
Bite-sized walks. Go for 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Can you just... You've got a little bit of time between meetings. Can you hit the stairs twice and just go up, down, up again, and back on your call, the next call, just to get it? And I wear a Fitbit, and it adds up. It really adds up. You don't need to go walking for an hour every day in order to hit your step goals or whatever. Just doing things here and there, and again, not getting super red-faced and sweaty and huffing and puffing every single time. It's absolutely great to get huffing and puffing and red-faced and sweaty. That's great, but it doesn't have to be that. And if you don't like that in particular, and I'm telling you, I understand this, especially if you're having like the hair loss and then you get a little bit sweaty. You feel like your hair is like pasted to your head and you can see your scalp, and you hate getting sweaty. The patients that I've worked with that have the male pattern hair loss, they just hate getting sweaty for that reason. And so you don't have to go all the way sweaty. You can just take little breaks, little snacks to keep moving, like Caitlin said, and broaden your opinion of a workout, or not opinion, broaden your definition, there's the word, of a workout. Because if you don't have to be in the gym in your little like curated outfit doing the leg press machine in order to get a workout in. Because if you just define it as only your favorite thing, it's not going to happen very frequently. And the same thing goes for vegetables, right? If you're only going to eat your favorite thing, you're not going to eat very many vegetables. You maybe are going to have to do some things, eat some things that aren't your favorite. I'm not telling you have to go do something you hate.
Right.
All right. If you hate swimming, I hate swimming for exercise. I'm terrible at it. The water is going up my nose the whole time. I reek like chlorine. My hair is ugly. I don't like it at all. I had to do it for a while because I had an injury I was rehabbing, but it is not my deal. So, okay, I don't tell myself I have to swim in order to exercise. Yeah. Find something else. The options are endless. Find something you just don't actively hate.
Right. You don't have to absolutely love it, but it needs to be something you can endure and keep coming back to. And if you can't find something... pressure,
the struggle of learning. There's a learning curve
so
to everything. Mm-hmm. You have to learn how to enjoy things. Same with like every sport. If you're just not immediately amazing at golf, does that mean you're never going to golf ever in your life? Some of us, especially those of us that were sort of labeled as like gifted or talented early in life, we started putting this pressure on ourselves that we have to be immediately great at something, otherwise we're failing, and we need to quit or run away or avoid it so that we're not failures. And there's no such thing as getting an A+ in exercise. I'm looking for B- effort every day. Don't try to get an A+ for 4 weeks. Try to get a B- for the next year.
I love that. And truly, for everybody but that extreme group that I first mentioned, it is really important that we just get you moving and build some routine in it. Like if you can get your body to go for 2 45-minute walks this week, and you can find some sort of body weight resistance training or actual other weighted resistance training, that would be a lot. And for somebody that's not doing much right now, that would be wonderful. So think critically about where you have opportunity or interest, where your windows of time are for the huffy puffy workout Sophia's talking about, in the days that it's harder to fit in. Because like my house, I have a basement and an upper level, and I go up and down those stairs probably 30 times a day, moving laundry around, doing this and that. And that is sneaking in workout. It's sneaking in steps. And throw, 3 sets of 10 push-ups at the end of the day and some, like burpees. That can be a lot of activity for the day. And I'm constantly throughout the day telling my body, you are working, you need to respond to insulin, and you need to gobble up the blood sugar that's in your blood.
There was something else that I was dying to say, and now it has gone out of my mind. Oh, I remember now. Ladies with PCOS, this is someone who doesn't have PCOS speaking right now, so take what you will from this, but I've heard it can feel like a real bummer time, that everything about it sucks, because you're like, cool, like my hair is falling out, I'm growing a mustache, I'm overweight.
And I can't get pregnant.
I can't get pregnant, and, yada, 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 yada. But I'm going to tell you, as someone that doesn't have PCOS and someone who actually has sort of low testosterone, you, the testosterone sister that has a lot of that androgen in your bloodstream, you are going to build muscle and be stronger than me so much more easily. This is like the one perk right here. If there was one perk, you can put on muscle.
Which can impact your metabolism too. I mean, it's a real win.
Have you ever felt like the lame girl in the sport or the gym or whatever because you're like slower and you're bigger? Well, guess what? What if you're the strongest one? What if you are stronger than that twig next to you and you're putting her to shame because of the numbers that you're putting up? Mm-hmm. That is a benefit right there, because you want to look at the girls that hold strength titles in the world. It's not the sticks. Mm-hmm. It's not the skinny gals. They're not the ones that are doing it. So if there is any impetus, a plea from someone like me who is, I don't want to use the word jealous, I would say admiring of women that make a lot of testosterone.
It's
for
like
this
use
one
the
reason.
Talent that your body does have.
Play the hand you're dealt, sister.
Right,
Make lemonade out of those lemons and get on them weights. And Caitlin said 20 to 30 pound weights. Yeah, those aren't the fives. That's not those little weights that your grandma uses at physical therapy. 20 to 30 pound dumbbells, that's some heavy stuff right there. And you can pack on some mass. No, like you can really grow some muscles with that.
You totally can. And if you grow your workout collection slowly, it won't be the most expensive thing to have around your house. Or if you have a lifestyle right now that allows it, get into a gym and get some real help with this. It could be a really powerful thing for you. So I have something to say to those women in that other category of HIIT and crazy workouts and CrossFit every day. We're going to get to it. I don't want to
talk to those ladies. I don't like them.
We're going to get to it after we hear from our sponsors.
That's a joke, by the way, because I am them, just so you know.
She's talking to herself right now. Okay, here's our sponsor. Hey guys, we're taking a break from our episode, and I want to talk about something that's super confusing. When you head down the supplement aisle and you're looking for a prenatal, and on the prenatal bottle itself, it says, do not take if you're trying to conceive, pregnant, or breastfeeding. Like, what the heck?
Yeah, it says, talk to your doctor if you are pregnant, could be pregnant, breastfeeding, postpartum, whatever. And every supplement has this. You go down the supplement aisle, you go shopping on whatever supplement website, and there's a disclaimer on every bottle of every single thing, which means that everything that you've been taking your whole life long is now a big question mark about whether or not you are potentially harming yourself by taking something where you're trying to be healthy. So that is why we partnered with Needed. Needed is a perinatal nutrition supplement brand that has a wide array of products specifically designed for women who are pregnant, trying to become pregnant, breastfeeding, or postpartum. So it's not just that these products like can work if you're in that situation, or oh, it's probably okay if you take it while you're trying to conceive. No. These products are researched, they are formulated, and they are put together specifically for women who are trying to conceive, pregnant, breastfeeding, and postpartum.
This answers so many questions. I always get asked, like, what can I take? It's cold and flu season. What's safe? Needed has an immune support. That's safe whether you're trying to conceive, pregnant. It's even safe for your little ones.
And it's not just immune support. They have got collagen. They've got hydration support. They have digestive support. They have prenatal multi. They even made a line for dudes.
Needed is somebody we're really proud to be partnering with. So head over to their website and use code FFF20 for 20% off your order.
All right, we're back from our sponsors. Caitlin wants me to talk to the workout obsessed ladies. Here's the thing.
It. Talk to them.
I kind of already did, right? It can feel really good to run on stress hormones. Mm-hmm. It can feel so good to drink coffee and lift and run and hit that meeting and do 2 things at once, 3 things at once all day. That can feel so good, and it can feel like you're getting so much accomplished because a candle burning at both ends is twice as bright. And it's really addictive to be that person. But it is not at all conducive to healthy ovulation. And while some women end up with PCOS symptoms from this, some are more like me, where it's a very low progesterone, low testosterone, and having a lot of problems because of it. That was my story. And it took an injury for me to really slow down. And even then I didn't want to, and I was in the pool complaining, like I said earlier in this episode. So ladies, I want to say you don't have to stop moving, but you gotta chill on the high intensity stuff.
Yes.
And I don't have a specific number to give you because I know you all are like, well, how many minutes at what heart rate and for what duration and in what intensity and which time intervals? And if you're asking that question, you know the answer. And the answer is less than what you're thinking right now. Less weight, less reps, less time, longer rest in between sets, longer rest in between workouts, taking more days off. And your day off, there's nothing wrong with active recovery. You can go on a nice long walk. You can go on a flat bike ride that does not require you to change any gears. You can do a relaxing yoga session that isn't like hot yoga, that isn't like this,
like
what is it called? Vinyasa or something, where it's like yin yoga. That's the restorative one. What's the one that's like really fast
like
and crazy?
Flow? Oh.
Yeah, I don't know. Yoga people, you know what I'm talking about. I sound like a freaking idiot right now because I don't really do a lot of yoga, or any yoga. Anyway, work in a couple days a week where you're toning down the intensity. Work in a couple workouts. Maybe you're in the gym doing what you love, but you're just going to not go balls to the wall. And you're going to use a little less weight and do a little less reps and take a longer break in between sets.
Yes.
Even CrossFit, when they're like 3, 2, 1, go, and you're supposed to like go all out for 17 minutes or whatever, and the coaches will say things like, the coach will be like, yeah, this workout is 5 minutes long, and that means you're supposed to die. Like, I want you dead by the end of this. Just because he's saying that doesn't mean that that's what you have to do.
Yeah.
You don't have to do that. And you know what? He doesn't give 2 poops whether or not you do it. He doesn't care. And, I bet if anything, you leveled with this coach or gym owner and said, hey, I've got some health goals here. I'm dealing with some stuff, and I really want to continue coming here because I love the atmosphere. I love the community. I love these workouts. But for my health and goals, I got to tone it down. He's not going to be like, come on, pick up those weights, Jenny. He's going to be like really coming alongside you with that. And when he's looking around the room, giving scaling options and being like, all right, Liz, use the 45s, Charlie, use the 75s, Jenny, use the 25s. And you can be like, oh man, you never let me do anything fun, or like, give him some guff or whatever so you save face in front of your friends, but tone it down. And this is what I'm currently doing in my life with my workouts. My baby is 1. I'm no longer postpartum. I wouldn't say, immediately postpartum, but I'm certainly not in any shape like I was before I got pregnant, and nor do I need to be. I don't care about, I care. My ego wants to go back there, but my goals for my family and my life are not in alignment with that. So I have to tell my ego to shut it. And you might have to do the exact same thing and get humble, take more rest, take more breaks, and just learn to chill.
Yeah.
It's so hard. I know some of you are like, God, I wish my job was to chill. I hate working out. But for some of us, it's really the only way we know how to deal with stress. It's really the only way we know how to deal with life. And if we're not cranking it, we don't know what to do with ourselves. So that's the second piece.
And I think that is an interesting thing to bring up to both of us, because I think we both really see workouts as a way to manage stress. Is things only get more complicated once you're pregnant. They then get more complicated once you have a child. And if like your most effective way to manage stress is exercise, what are you going to do for your first 6 weeks postpartum where you're bleeding all the time, you're not sleeping, and things are stressful? Like, we need to build in not just what's healthiest for your body to be fertile, but we need to build in what's healthiest for you to be well and have stress resilience and more tools in your toolbox to manage with what life throws at you. Because you're not always in control of the stress that's coming at you. It's how you manage it and how you kind of, make your life, make your choices to respond and deal with the stress. And there are so many different tools there.
So many different tools. And you're going to have to come up with different tools. Mm-hmm. When you are a hammer, everything's a nail. And guess what? You can't just only have the hammer anymore. You can't
fix everything with just a hammer and a nail.
And that used to be my way. When I would have big feelings, big stresses, I would roast myself in the gym. Because when you're too exhausted to think, when you're so tired, you're so worn out that you just don't have the energy to be pissed off anymore. You just don't have the energy to feel sorry for yourself anymore. And so you feel better and you've got all those endorphins and everything else, but you got to find some other tools. And there are lots of other tools, and they don't have to be crazy or expensive. It can even just be like a stressful thing rolls across your desk. You are just going to spend a few minutes deep breathing as you ruminate on it. And that's just it's not going to dump out the stress bucket. It's not going to make the stress go away. It's just going to give you a little bit more capacity. It's just going to skim a little off the top so that it's more manageable as you move through life. And again, like the snacking attitude, you don't have to do one singular big thing that's going to make a big difference. It's about doing something that just takes a tablespoon out of that cup of stress so that it's not overflowing multiple times a day.
And I think that this is a great segue to food, because another thing that a large portion of the PCOS population deals with is binge eating disorder or binge eating episodes, and really just looking at food as a source of comfort and a way to deal with stress. So maybe you're not the crazy exerciser, but food has become your medicine, and not in the way that we mean food is medicine, in the way that it's become, almost something that enables you to feel crappy and perpetuate a really bad cycle. And so on the other end of the same coin, you need other ways to manage stress. You need other resources and tools in your toolbox so that you don't dive headfirst into that bag of spicy Doritos at the end of every day, because life is just so hard. So when we kind of approach nutrition for PCOS, for anybody that's trying to conceive, I want to tell you that probably my 4-year-old could tell you what you need to do in the kitchen. Like this is not chemistry, rocket science, brain surgery. Like, just sit down and think. I mean, I was raised, and Sophia was too, in the age of like the food pyramid. Some of our listeners are a lot younger than us, and maybe by the time you got around to it, it was a plate, and that's what they taught you in your, elementary school health class. But think about what you see in nature. What's healthy? Like, let's be quiet for a second. Let's think about that. What's healthy? What foods scream health to you? I think almost anybody with eyes and a nose would consider like fruits and vegetables to be among the healthier things that you can eat. Very nutrient dense in a lot of ways, and vibrant in color, vibrant in flavor. Like you look at a thing of like a purple cabbage, or you look at bright berries, or you look at all the different citruses that we have, and it's like, these are really healthy things, right? I mean, contextually, you can make anything unhealthy. Like you can take an orange and turn 8 oranges into a cup of orange juice, and it's no longer healthy. But when you just kind of look out at nature, it's like, what do we have to consume? It's not spicy Doritos and Twinkies. It's not soda filled with high fructose corn syrup. And it's not all the
expensive powder that your neighbor says you have to buy from her in order to reach your health goals either. Yes. It's not a secret fruit grown in the depths of the Amazon that's only now been discovered by our leader, Jonathan, who's done so much for us to help us grow our businesses. Like, it's not that crazy. It's not that crazy. It's not that sexy. Mm-hmm. Fruits and vegetables.
That's a
proteins
big piece of it.
And fats. Mm-hmm. And then carbs that have fiber involved in them. Mm-hmm. Like corn on the cob and watermelon.
Sweet potatoes with
sweet
peel
potatoes.
Like
oats.
Think about things that you can find in nature that don't take a heck of a lot to turn into your dinner plate. Now, I meal prepped yesterday and today for my family to eat all week. And there are things that I bought that were like ready-made. I bought ready-made pizza dough at Trader Joe's. But what I stuffed it with were bell peppers, onions, spinach, bacon, and sausage and cheese. And we're going to serve it alongside of a salad. I made that dinner, except for the salad, which I'll toss the night we eat it, in about 20 minutes. And they're frozen in my freezer. And I'm going to pull them out on Thursday afternoon for about an hour before I throw them in the oven. And we'll have dinner in 20 minutes. It takes a little bit of like, what's going to work for me and my partner, me and my husband, me and my family, what's within my budget, how can I make this work with my time budget? That's like the, 200 level course. What I want to talk to you about is the fact that you can do it, and it's going to take a little intentionality, and find foods that you know are healthy. Shop that perimeter of the grocery store. Think about the PCOS plate that we talk about. Focus on protein at every meal and snack first, okay? Then where are the colorful vegetables and fruit coming from? Do I have a healthy fat? And if I'm going to have some carbohydrate and I didn't cover that in my healthy vegetables and fruit category, what can I do to complement this meal? Like when I made...
Or what would make it extra yummy and really great?
Yes.
You don't have carbs as the condiment, the complement. What could make it just go over the top?
Yes.
A little bit of that.
So the other thing I made this morning, we made Greek meatballs. I had them mixed and rolled and on the pan within like 10 minutes. And I bought something pre-made. I bought lentils that were already steamed and cooked for me. I bought bruschetta that was already made. And I have crumbled feta in my fridge. We're going to lay those meatballs and that lentil salad over top of arugula and spinach, and that's going to be dinner. And it was really simple, but like everything in that is something that's like easily recognizable, maybe except for the feta cheese. Like that became milk and then that became cheese. Like it came from an animal. I can't just find cheese in nature. But everything else is something that's pretty much grown, including the beef that made the meatballs. So I think when we're talking about health, we're chasing for that one thing that nobody's ever taught us. But I can guarantee you with the basics that you probably recognized as a 4 or 6-year-old, you know a lot about what's healthy. And it's about filling your plate with that, bringing those things into your home, prepping them so they're easy to grab to set yourself up for success. It's not going to be eating Whole30 for the rest of your life.
Oh, God.
It's not going to be, I mean, even lately, I feel like the Mediterranean diet is like, I see this everywhere right now for PCOS. And there's nothing wrong with the Mediterranean diet. And I think that it has some good research around it. But you can eat a Mediterranean diet and still eat very high carb and not enough protein with a few tweaks. So when we're kind of just making sweeping broad recommendations, it's as simple as find protein every time you're eating and eat lots of vegetables. Those are the basics if you really want to manage your PCOS and get pregnant.
And utilize the slow cooker, y'all. Slow cooker is great for those tough cuts of meat. And that we do a lot of that in my family is we'll get like, and the tough cuts of meat are things that have the label on it like shoulder, butt, arm, chuck, bone, or rib. Like the cuts of meat that have those words attached to it. They're usually the cheaper cuts, and they take slower cooking. You can make similar things and just mix it up each week. Like you can have American style pot roast and just salt, pepper, and some Worcestershire sauce. You can make it like a French onion next week and do onions and beef bouillon in there with it. The week after that, you can make it like a Moroccan flavor with paprika and cinnamon and cloves. And then the week after that, you can do an Asian flavor with soy sauce and garlic and some rice vinegar and sesame oil. You can just rotate this every week so that you're making Asian style bowls, and then next week it's Greek style wraps, and then the week after that it's tacos or burritos or taco salad, and you just kind of have the same things rolling out week after week, but you don't feel like you're eating the same thing every day because you're presenting it in a different way and it has some different seasonings. And it's okay if your meals are simple and on repeat. You don't have to come up with something new and special every single week, especially when you are experiencing challenges getting pregnant for the second, third, fourth time, and you've already got kids to feed. Coming up with something new all the time that's going to be accepted by kids, that's tough. And kids don't usually like new food all the time. They like to have like the tried and true staples. So don't put a bunch of pressure on yourself to make it something special. And if your budget allows, lean on the pre-made options. I'm talking about lunch meat. I'm talking about frozen meatballs. I'm talking about individually frozen fish fillets. Shrimp is so easy. Just butter and garlic, frozen shrimp. It's ready in 10 minutes. And you could put it in your taco, your salad, your soup, whatever it is that you're making. Eggs are so easy, cheap protein. And even like those lightly breaded, like Bear chicken strips, chicken nuggets, again, a great protein. And no, not everything has to be grass-fed, organic. You can buy frozen burger patties and make yourself some beef. What am I trying to say? It's like a Big Mac in a bowl kind of thing.
Yeah, that's delicious.
Burger bowl. You can do things like this just for a 10-minute lunch, quick dinners, and then a couple nights a week, style it out like Caitlin was just saying, or meal prep to have a couple nights a week like what she was talking about. But you get to decide what works for you and what works for your family, but decide it. Try it out. Find things that are working for you that you can do regularly, including having frozen options for when you were sick or at a wedding over the weekend and so you didn't meal prep. What are you going to do this upcoming week? Because the drive-through line, or just cobbling together things at your house, or finally door dashing something at 7:15, it's not going to get there till 8:30. Like this is not the way.
It's not the way. This is not the way, Mandalorian. This is not the way.
This is not the way. I have spoken. That's what that guy always said on Mandalorian. I have spoken. This is not the way. I have spoken.
This is not the way. You know, it's interesting because I think with just like a little bit of mental gymnastics, and I'm not talking about like crazy gymnastics, you can say meal planning is really overwhelming, and then it can become not. For instance, if there's just two of you, you haven't had kids yet, and you buy a rotisserie chicken, and you're going to turn a rotisserie chicken, some cheese, a veggie of your choice, and a can of beans into enchiladas, you could either eat one meal of enchiladas and then have it for lunch for 3 or 4 days for both of you, or you could make 2 pans of it and freeze one, and you have dinner tonight and lunch today, and a meal done for next week. And if every week you pick one meal that you can do that for, that means next week you can pull from something that you already made and decrease the amount of dishes you have to do, decrease the amount of prep you have to do. Maybe improve on your food waste, because maybe you're the kind of person that doesn't want to eat the same thing for lunch 3 days in a row. So I think just a few tweaks like that. One thing that I've been doing a lot lately is every weekend I pick one thing that I'm going to bulk prep for breakfast. Breakfast burritos is one. High protein muffins is one. High protein waffles is one. I've been making these new things that are like high protein waffle mix that I'll put sausage and cheese, egg, and yogurt in, and make kind of like a savory breakfast biscuit. You could make something like that on a weekend and make a lot of it. And if every weekend you're putting like 10 or 15 breakfasts in, every day you can pull something different from the freezer for you and your husband. And work really smart with your time, and just look for recipes that are appealing to you, that are high in protein, and often offer a vegetable or a way to like complement it with vegetables when you're serving it.
And again, press through the pain of learning. If you are brand new in the kitchen, and I have friends that are like this, that just panic because they're like, they have no idea what to do, and they put the chicken in the pan and it's like sizzling so hot and burning, and then it's spraying everywhere, and so they just are like, okay, well, I don't know how to cook. I can't do this. I don't know how to cook. Cooking is a part of life. That's like saying I don't know how to clean. I don't know how to do laundry. What are you going to do? You're going to send out your laundry forever because you don't know how to do it? And even when we're in this economy and in these situations, or when you're visiting someone and you don't have a laundry service lined up in Albuquerque where your cousins live, you're going to send your laundry out? You're going to make your cousin do your laundry for you? No. We got to learn how to do some basic things. You don't need to be a gourmet chef, but you're going to have to get uncomfortable and learn some basic skills in the kitchen. You don't have to become Wolfgang Puck, but you do need to become like a teenage level. Scrambled eggs, a chicken breast, how to put together a good salad, how to work the oven, getting the right tools for these things. I mean, some people, you need to make the investment to get a cutting board, a knife, a vegetable peeler. And you don't need to go to Williams-Sonoma and drop $3,000 to make this happen. You could run to Target and spend maybe $100 and get the few key items that are really going to make it a lot easier on you.
Love that. Let's break for our last word from our sponsors, and then I have a couple quick things that can be really helpful for anyone with PCOS that's trying to get pregnant.
We're taking a quick break from this episode to talk about one of our sponsors, the Prenatal Nutrition Library.
We love the Prenatal Nutrition Library. It's a searchable database and app, which means you have answers within seconds and peace of mind that what you're eating during pregnancy is both safe and nutritious.
It's almost like having your own personal pregnancy dietitian in your back pocket that's going to not only tell you, is it safe to eat this? How much of that should I have? Yada, yada, yada. But give you actual meal plans so you know how to put it all together onto your plate today. And the meal plans are trimester specific, meaning, some women are kind of nauseous in their first trimester and maybe they need specific foods to help combat that. Prenatal Nutrition Library has got you covered. Or the fact that your baby's brain is growing rapidly in your third trimester and you need your nutrition to support that. Prenatal Nutrition Library meal plans has got you covered there too.
This is evidence-based information. Registered dietitians are in this app weekly answering members' questions. There's an exclusive podcast within the app that's run by Ryan, who is the prenatal dietitian that founded this entire thing. It's a wealth of knowledge and resources and will take you far beyond that one-page handout your doctor handed you that actually probably has out-of-date information about eating in pregnancy.
So head on over to the Prenatal Nutrition Library as soon as you get your big fat positive. Well, okay, first message me and Caitlin so we can do a happy dance with you. Then head over to the Prenatal Nutrition Library to get clear strategies to meet your nutrient needs, as well as to take the stress out of confirming what's safe and most optimal for you and your baby while you're pregnant. Use code FFF20 for 20% off.
All right, back from our break. So when we're talking about fertility with PCOS, ovulation is key. So when we're talking about the basics, you need to have some idea if you're ovulating or not. And here's the thing. If you haven't had a period in a while, or when you get your period, you bleed for like 3 or 4 weeks on end, you're probably not ovulating. So this is like, sex ed 101. We need an egg and some sperm. They have to come together, right?
If you can't get an egg and a sperm together,
you don't get an egg out, there's no baby. Yeah.
No joy.
So we need to answer the question of if you're ovulating. If you know that you're ovulating, but really infrequently, it probably isn't going to take a whole lot to get you ovulating more often and more robustly and making enough progesterone. Simple tweaks that we can do. If you're not ovulating at all, we have a little bit of an uphill battle, and you need to go back to the last episode we released, the last episode of last season about PCOS labs, and we need to get thorough lab work, review your lab work, and see what area of this situation is making it so that you're not ovulating. When we talk about supplements, there are 4 things that I really like to consider. The first is, what's your vitamin D? And do we need extra vitamin D on top of a prenatal? The second is a prenatal. The third is if you're not eating fish 2 times a week on average, like a good fatty, healthy fish, then you need to be on a fish oil. This will help with inflammation and egg quality as well. And then, are you taking inositol? So vitamin D, a prenatal, a fish oil, and inositol. You may be able to get away with not taking vitamin D on top of your prenatal, but you're in the 5% if you can do that. You probably need a really quality prenatal and vitamin D on top of it for a while. You're going to need a fish oil. If you're allergic to fish and you're hearing this, there are some other options, but you need to work with somebody to figure out what's the best option for you. And then an inositol product. I prefer myo-inositol only. If you have a 40-to-1 blend, it's better than not taking inositol at all. And get regular with taking these supplements because they are helpful to help you ovulate. They are going to lower the risk of miscarriage. They will cover bases that may be difficult for us to get every nutrient perfectly when we're trying to conceive, and this isn't the time to gamble on that. And a prenatal can be a really good kind of safeguard investment in that category.
Boom, bang, bong. Caitlin just
ding-a-ling.
Gave you the
4.
ding-a-ling.
Boom, bang, bong, ding-a-ling.
Ding-a-ling-a-ling. She did it. Well, I think that pretty much wraps our episode, Caitlin. These are the basics for PCOS and really for anyone who's trying to conceive. I mean, I don't think everyone trying to conceive needs the myo-inositol or some of the more PCOS-specific supplements, but everything else that we've talked about up to that point pretty much applies to everybody. So why don't we hit a quick yeah, girl, and then wrap the episode?
I love that. Okay, my yeah girl today is that I have like a crazy week in real time, what's going on in my life right now, prepping for a vacation, but we are celebrating my parents' 50th wedding anniversary. It's going to be the first time all my siblings and their spouses and children are together since I've had any children. Like they all know my children and have met all three of my children, but we haven't all been in one room together basically since I was a day pregnant with Fiona. So this is like, it's so exciting. So I have a lot on my plate this next week to like prep to get out of town and to just have that be the most wonderful time ever. I'm really looking forward to it. And I just also think it's worth celebrating a relationship 50 years strong.
That's
like,
the yeah girl.
May we all fight for our marriages, fight for those we love, be forgiving, lead with a lot of forgiveness. One thing, my parents live in like a granny unit at my house, and two of my kids were off at school today. I had the other kid parked in front of some TV so that I could do some of this meal prep I talked about. And I walked down the hall to ask my parents a question, and they were praying. And I thought, this is it. This is one of those things that they did probably not every day of their marriage, but they have continually come back to. And what they always, I hear them recommend to young couples is pray with your spouse every day. And when my dad talks about it, he'll often say, like, you know, there's no quicker way to know what your wife is anxious about or struggling with than when you hear her plead to God with what's on her heart. And it was a beautiful thing, kind of like, as I'm prepping because we're leaving out of town soon, to walk in on that and go like, you know, they're old, they're gray, they're aging, things are hard in a lot of categories, but here they are in the morning time praying together for their day and for their week. And it was really beautiful. So anyway, yeah, girl, to Pat and Mary Hughes for their 50 years and us all getting together to celebrate.
Wonderful. Good for them. Yeah, girl. I'm so glad you guys are doing that. My yeah, girl, I'll do a retroactive yeah, girl. Caitlin and I had a girls' weekend together last weekend.
It was so fun.
We went to her cousin's house with one of our longtime friends, Michelle. She's come on the podcast. She was the founder of Finn & Co.
Every kind of pregnancy.
Every kind of pregnancy. That was Michelle. So we got together in person, all four of us, for the first time since we were like 15 or something.
Yeah.
So young back then. And we had the most grand time together. It was such sweet fellowship. I mean, some of my favorite, we did a lot of fun stuff. Don't get me wrong. It was fun to like drink champagne and watch the sunset. It was fun to go out on the lake in the hot tub boat. Like, we did so much fun stuff. But some of my most fun moments were just when we were all laying in our little beds at night, talking to each other.
Because we were all in the same room.
We all shared a room. It was just...
Or just the simple things. My cousin has this, like, probably $3,000 espresso machine maker. And, like, getting up and Sophia making, like, jammy tomatoes and eggs with sausage and yummy bread and preparing that, and I'm making the lattes on this fun machine, and Michelle's helping us pack and get ready to leave, like
just doing any dishes from the night before.
Just like those simple moments of being together. And
nobody told anyone to do anything. It wasn't like anyone had to be the manager, and I was like, listen, I'm gonna make breakfast, so Caitlin, you get on those coffees. Or like nothing like that. Everybody just fell into their role.
And I think, I mean, it was a really beautiful weekend. I have to just like applaud Sophia. It's so fun to be your friend. It is so fun and a privilege. And like, we had a really fun time. We also had hard conversations about traumatic things that have happened in our lives or in our church. And
we did.
It's really... Or like the first morning we wake up, I drank way too much the night before, and I found out my daughter has Fifth's disease, which is this like weird childhood illness.
Fever virus.
Yeah. And it's like nothing crazy, or at least not in
like
my...
her life was in danger or anything,
like,
but it was just
she's
like
not like an immune compromised
a time when she's
child.
going to want mommy. And you're not there.
And And like being able to go pee and then walk into the room and say, like, will you pray with me? I just want to pray for her and my family is taking care of her. It's just really, I think this podcast is so many things to so many people, but I also hope that it is a vision of what a true friendship can be and like saying hard things and enjoying joys in life and then just being with each other when things are hard or, you know, like what's that verse in the Bible where it says like where there is no ox, the stable is clean.
Where
like
there are no oxen, the manger is
yeah,
clean.
Thank you. Slugs and bugs.
But abundant crops come by the strength of the ox.
That's so funny.
Slugs and bugs.
Slugs and bugs. If you need good Christian music for your kids, they're fun albums. You know, like there was shit. We all took shits, and we all talked about the bidet. There were where
we did have a bidet. That is funny.
There were moments where it was like cranky. People didn't sleep well. People were being told they probably should sleep somewhere else.
Sassy at each other because neither of us wanted to sleep on the couch, and then we ended up sharing a bed, and we both slept great, and it was not even a problem. But we both were so worried that the other one was going to snore or wiggle or cough or itch and keep us up all night, and it was just ridiculous.
Stupid.
But anyway, Caitlin is a wonderful bedmate. She and I shared the bed together. I wish we had done it the whole time. That was silly. But we had quite a nice time.
And very nice advertisement for any of the listeners that will ever share a bed with me. I'm just saying,
if you have the opportunity,
well,
seize it.
I'm just saying it is there when you're dealing with people, even your best of friends, there's still stuff.
There is.
And you can focus on that, or you can choose love. You can choose forgiveness. You can choose growth moments. You can, I don't know. This is almost
or just
like
patience. You know, when I was like getting all upset about the bed situation, just be patient with me because I worked through it and it all worked out and it was all just fine.
Right.
But I just needed a minute.
Yeah.
I just needed a minute. And it meant that and everyone else was going to have to be uncomfortable for that minute while I worked through it.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I'm making this a really big yeah girl, but I just think that celebrating friendship's really important. And I feel like this is one of those friendships in life that was unexpected to me in a really beautiful way and has had such rich reward.
Same.
And I also think like God has been able to use this as a really beautiful friendship and like joining of minds for us to have like a mission and a ministry outside of just our friendship and what benefits we get from that. And that's really like ultimate, yeah, girl, yeah, God. Like that's really cool. So welcome to season 3.
And it's a huge yeah girl for me because having friends has always been hard for me. I was the girl that's hard to have deep friendships. It's hard for me to do that. I can make a friend instantly, you know, life of the party kind of lady, but like to go deep and to actually have like lasting friendships that are deep, that's always sort of eluded me. I've never really been able to like have the best friend or like the friend group since kindergarten. Like that's never been me. And here I have my Caitlin and I'm just so thankful.
It's the best.
So there's our yeah girl. That's the first episode of season 3. Thank you for listening. And remember to subscribe because this is the first episode of the season. And if you don't want to miss any more of them, subscribe. And while you're at it, rate and review. It helps other people find us. Thanks for listening. And we'll see you in the next episode.
Bye.
Hey, it's Sophia. If you love the show and want to continue your health and fertility journey using our resources, head on over to foodfreedomfertility.com for show notes, links to products and services, information about our guests, and our newsletter. Again, that's foodfreedomfertility.com. Thanks for listening.